Just trying to invoke epileptic seizure on you, but looks like you're all okay. So for 10 years, I've gone from a typographically driven design geek, but I guess I still am that. But I'm also very interested in how brands can make an impact and shaping new brands. So I have some tips for you, not fun tips, but 4 tips on how to make better brands. And I've named this thing 4 things to consider when evolving your brand into your digital product into a significant brand. Just trying to lower expectations by making it sound as dull as possible. Actually, it's inspired by old Letterman shows. I don't know if you've seen those. So the first tip is don't be cold, embrace emotions. So if you want to connect with your user, you have to humanize your product and take it down to a level that the user can understand. If you only talk about the features or the technical stuff or how this will achieve productivity and so on, you will never reach the hearts of the users. And I think that's very important. You want to actually change their lives, and in order to do so, you have to speak to their emotions. So I'll show an example of this. This is our own work. So we've done emotional branding for Oslo City Bikes, and we've done it in quite a literal way. You've probably seen this around Oslo, I guess. So their initial goal was to make Oslo bike more and to make Oslo more of a bike city. And our initial thought was we have to make it safer for people, so we wanted to make a mascot that follows you as you ride through the city. So we wanted to take the service down to a level that was with you. So we made this little bike icon, and that could turn into a whole range of different emotions. So at one point, it even came out the closet as gay. And when you have bikes and technology out in the city and you have human users that will use it, sometimes things go wrong. And we wanted to incorporate this on a brand level so that errors and mistakes that show up as you use it come from the branding, and it's not like this traditional warning signs that you see, but it's much more on a human and emotional level. So the identity takes on very different moods. You have flirting, joyful, sad, pleased. And the importance here is to show vulnerability. Only painting a rosy picture is dishonest and a thing of the past. So if you only play on the joyful, happy emotions, and you're going to look like you're not honest about the product. So you must play on a bigger spectrum of feelings. There's a whole range of them. And that makes the brand feel much more flexible and human, and more of a friend and a companion, not some distant, big company that you can't connect with. It takes it down to a ground level. So at one point, this bike even got drunk on this beer bottle, and it came to life through the help of our friends at Animasjonsdepartementet. And for Oslo Pride, a team at Anti, Sondre and Emil, came up with this concept that they came to the team at Oslo City Bikes with, and they called it Oslo Bicycle. And this takes our thoughts and initial concept to a whole new level, where we were given the task of making the logo into different genders and transgenders. And they can be coupled up in new constellations, and this was launched during Oslo Pride Week. So the identity is flexible across all surfaces. It's literally got the twinkle in the eye as you bike through the city. And it takes the shapes of greets, warnings, and helpful tips along the way. So this made Oslo Bike twice as much each year, not the brand itself, but the whole service. And it's been dubbed the globe's most efficient system, and that's for bike rides per bike. And I think it's a really nice example of how fast times are moving, because This was actually the first in the world that you could open a bike with one click on your phone. And of course, now these days we see like 8 scooter companies just in Oslo that have this similar technology. And it's just been 3 years since they released this. So for this project, we work with Urban Infrastructure Partner and Titan Zeros and Ones on collaborating with it. So it was a great team effort. And since this, of course, this brand has been launched in Trondheim and Bergen, and Urban Infrastructure Partner with their platform Urban Sharing is also in Edinburgh, and I think they're going to Stockholm too, so it's really expanding across the globe. Number 2, press hard on your one true virtue. So you need to find and define one unique aspect that's true to your company. Something that competitors haven't, they don't have it, or they haven't realized the possibility to take ownership of it. So that could be a lot of things, and I'll show you one example. We're going to firstly watch a little movie. The movie is not The Matrix, I'm sorry about that. But I'll be showing an example of a case that we haven't done, so it's not to my credit at all. Here we go. That's pretty smooth. So this is an ad, first of all, for the Swedish bank Klarna. And they are pressing really hard on the fact that their transactions are smoother. So for me personally, banking has always felt like a hassle. I've grown up from my local bank into the digital world. And used to do a lot of online shopping, and I calmed down on it now, but I used to dread having to type in all those numbers and stuff like that, so I guess that's what they're trying to solve. You don't actually have to type in the credit card numbers, and they also have the option to pay later, so I guess that's why they're trying to own this whole concept of smooth transactions. And they are pressing really hard on it. Why? Because it's very hard to get people to care about anything at all. Like, why would you care that your bank is saying, "Ooh, we have the best transactions possible"? People don't care. So it's hammer time. You need to hammer that message in. Because people don't see all your advertisements, they maybe use your products, but they don't even see all the different corners of that product. So if you want to connect with the audience, you need to hammer it in, and you need to do so in a way that connects with the actual audience. And Klarna has done this by pressing very hard on this Instagram aesthetic. They got the pastel colors, they got the cheesy, kitschy art direction, which really stands out in these feeds that you get that you see them in. And this style, I really like the brand, but this style is not for me. I think the font, for instance, looks horrible, but that doesn't matter. Because you need to ignore your own taste, because you're not the end user, usually. So even though I don't particularly like this, I think you need to take a step away from that. And I think that's a lot of what we see when we're working with clients. Maybe we have some clients here today, so no offense to you, but sometimes we'll show them concepts and they'll be like, I don't really like the colors, or I show the logo to my uncle, he doesn't like it, my dog doesn't like it. You need to let that go, because if you trust in the process and you work with someone that you like and that have done good work before, and they have a great strategy, don't rely on your own taste, because that's not what the end users is gonna be needing. Yes. So, number 3, keep it flexible. You don't know exactly where your product will be in 3 years. you're iterating and you're learning from your users, and everything just moves faster these days. So you need to take it step by step. And we learned a lot on this by working with kolonial.no. It was, I think, the very first startup that we worked with back in 2013. By the looks of the picture, maybe it was in the mid-90s, actually. So the first thing we did was make a really simple, scaled-down identity, and the logo was this pickup point with an arrow pointing to it. That was the idea, but because that was their go-to-market strategy, was to have people pick up their groceries at pickup points. Of course, they learned that people didn't really want that. They wanted their groceries delivered to them. So we did a next step in this branding project a couple of years later, where we revamped the identity, we introduced a bit of a fresher color palette, and we redid some other stuff. For instance, we did a new tweak on the logo, which now had this little knock-knock effect instead of the pickup point thing. And we introduced some simple illustration principles, like we've done some of these illustrations, but we also wanted to keep it freely. You could choose any illustrator that you like as long as you use the color palette. So they were able to use that for different campaigns. And the lesson from this is, don't use money on things you will never need. Rewrite the rules when needed. So don't spend a lot of money designing for scenarios that won't happen. And what's smart about this is you can take it step by step. So if you do a great first step, then you can do an even greater next step. And that's how you make a great identity over time. And that scales with the product as well. So kolonial.no, they do a lot of different initiatives, and they experiment a lot with their product. They have done self-driving car tests. The latest addition is that they're working with Claes Olsson to bring like gadgets and batteries and stuff into their product range. So they're really trying out different paths, and it's going well. We can't, of course, take credit for this, but they've gone from a tiny challenger to a market driver that's actually pushing for online grocery shopping. And they've been valued at 2.2 billion NOK, which is also great, and that's how you scale a company. Okay, number 4. I think this is the most important one. And it's something that we're trying to help our clients do much more. That is to stand for something. Now you'll notice I don't have a GIF on this slide because we're moving into the serious section now. So this is the cover for Financial Times 1 week ago. And they are calling for a reset of capitalism. That is quite huge. And this is their cover, and it's also a first taste of their new brand platform, which they'll be working on for the next years. And what they're calling for is that companies actually do better, improve society, and serve a purpose, not only make a profit. And that's something you've probably heard before, but this being Financial Times, I think this is quite big. And a close example that I really like is the company Remarkable. I'm sure you've heard of their product. It's an innovative tablet that feels like paper, and it's a great note-writing experience, and it makes you focus more around the work that you actually do without distractions. So if Remarkable were to only focus on tech specs, then they'd lose out to tablet competitors, right? So how do they make a change? If you don't stand for something, how do you attract the crowd? Remarkable has done this by taking a clear stand. They want to change how people work, and they want to focus on how technology is not only bringing us forward, but also bringing us down. And so they've launched this brand campaign that they've called Get Your Brain Back. And I'll show a little excerpt from that.
Technology was meant to be at our service, but now it is putting us under attack. Every minute, everywhere. How can we think or create when interruptions have become the norm? When something is constantly stealing our attention?
So, if you want die-hard fans, you're also going to get some haters, and that is good. You have to find something that you actually believe in and that ties in with your product. And it has to be a big enough of an opinion that you might drive some people off. Because if you're trying to please everyone, you're going to fall. You have to stand for something that makes a change. You can't reach everyone. And I think Remarkable has done a great job with this so far, and I'm really looking forward to see what they do in the future. So, to conclude, my 4 tips. Number 1, embrace emotions. Number 2, press on your virtue. Number 3, keep it flexible. And number 4, stand for something. And I think a lot of you are probably familiar with some of these tips from before, but I really think that there's only a handful of brands that are doing this right in the world right now. We need to press much harder on these issues and do it boldly enough. So I'm really urging everybody that creates products and brands to stand for something and make brands that actually make an impact on our society. Thank you.